What are you doing, everybody? I am the founder of Overseeing Industries. I've been using Unreal Engine for a little bit under or over 5 years now. And today I'm going to teach you how to use the terrain slash landscape mode inside of Unreal Engine. I'm going to be demonstrating using the Fortnite Unreal Engine because it's going to be a great place to start off, and you can transfer your skills from this to the actual in-game engine itself. But the first things first is a slight overview of what I am going to be teaching you. I am going to be teaching you how to make different landscapes, and then I'm going to be teaching you the tools that you have available to you. And in the future, I'm going to teach you some certain tricks that you might want to have in the future that could probably help you. First things first, to get you started, we're going to go ahead and right underneath where it says your project. This is a brand new project, and I didn't even bother naming it. It's right here, and say selection mode by default. You're going to want to click that and go to landscape mode. You're going to see this. Now, in order to actually start working on a landscape or terrain, you have to create it. So, you see this, and for this, we're just going to go ahead and do the default size, but right here in section size, you can have 7 by 7 here, which, as you can see, it's not very large, but you never know. You might like it. You got 15, 15's a little bit larger, but it's still kind of small. And then your 31, 31, which is kind of like your medium. And you have your 127 by 127, which is your large. And if you want to pretty much the equivalent of the Fortnite island, just maybe like a quarter of it, you have your 255 by 255. And yeah, it's really large. So next you want to just go ahead and press create. Whenever you are on the normal engine, it will ask for the material. I would recommend just picking any material, doesn't matter. If you have a certain material that you want to attach to it immediately, that would be great. But in the Fortnite Unreal Engine already sets the material for you, so I'm just going to press create. And it's going to take some time, but it's eventually going to create the landscape, and here we are. So as you can see here, we now have our landscape. We're going to want to go ahead and click on that landscape to modify it. And now we can use the tools, which I'm going to give a brief overview of them all. So our first tool, we have the sculpt. The sculpt tool does is it allows you to raise terrain. The erase tool does exactly what it says and is made to erase terrain. Just as simple as that. You have the smooth tool, which is made to use on terrains that have jagged surfaces like these, and is just supposed to make it smoother and not so jagged like this. Turns that into this. You then have the flatten tool. The flatten tool is going to make a certain area perfectly flat for your convenience. And of course, you can still sculpt on top of it and everything. The way the flatten tool works is that wherever your cursor is the height of that flat. Now, one very important thing to realize with the flatten mode is right here, is the flatten mode of the flatten tool and their tool settings. Here will allow you to choose from if you want the flatten tool to erase anything underneath it, above it, or both. So here we have both, raise, lower, interval, and terrace. So I personally would not bother with interval and terrace. I personally only use lower, raise, and both, but I mostly use both. Which leads us to our ramp tool. Our ramp tool allows us to make a ramp, like so, to our two selected points. Now we can easily create these points by clicking where we want it to go. So, for example, let's say I want to have this ramp go all the way over here. So we just click there, and then we will go ahead and hit add ramp, and boom, you have your ramp. And once again, like the flatten tool, you can sculpt on top of it, erase it, and smooth it. Another thing with the ramp tool that I would suggest looking into is the ramp width and fall off. Fall off I would not really bother about too much, but your width is definitely one that you might mess with a lot. By default it is set at 2000. The next tool up is the erosion tool, and the erosion tool simulates erosion which is basically the transfer of higher areas to lower areas. So it is different from the flatten tool. It is not going to be perfectly flat, but it will create some interesting shapes. Naturally, it is going to be a little bit weird, so you might have to mess with the tool settings to get it to work. But it is all personal preference, so just play around with it and see what you like. Hydro tool is similar to erosion's tool, but instead of simulating erosion, it simulates hydro damage, also known as water damage. This is a more advanced tool. There's really no good point to it unless if you're like trying to make very like jagged areas, but I never really used it that much, but you never know, you could still use it in certain areas. But you can see it in action here. Tool up is the noise tool. What the noise tool does, it allows you to make randomly generated terrain. Of course, you're more than likely to add on to this, but it will allow you to have pretty much like a rough start. And it's definitely great for adding background areas as well, because just like right here, it kind of simulates kind of like a canyon type of terrain. I definitely found a lot of uses for this tool over my years, and I'm sure you will enjoy the tool just as much as I did. Also have the visibility tool, and what the visibility tool does, it allows you to create holes within your terrain across all players. And now we have, it looks like we have grass here, but we don't. There is no terrain under here, so we can simply just fall through. but it allows you to create holes inside your terrain. And now we have our mirror tool. And what the mirror tool does is it mirrors for one side of your terrain to the other. So to simply use this, whenever you go ahead and select mirror tool, you're going to see this. You just want to move it to where you want to mirror it, apply, and boom, as you can see, it mirrors. This acts as a halfway point though, so be wary of that. So I can go ahead and go here, and this is going to be a halfway point, and it's going to copy this side to this side. Our next tool is the select tool. And what the select tool does, it allows you to highlight certain areas. Let's say I want to highlight this area here. And it allows you to mask this area from other tools. So let's say I want to use flatten. As you or let's try smooth. I want to use smooth. It smooths out this area just fine, but as soon as I go in here, nothing happens. Basically, you want to use this tool whenever you have an area that you do not want to change, and it does make it a lot better sometimes when doing very, very tough terrain, and tight terrain, in fact, as well. But once again, I'm going to demonstrate again. Here, you can do whatever, but then as soon as I get here, nothing happens. So, a very important thing to note whenever using the select tool is that if you no longer want this to be selected, you just click here and clear region selection. And just like that, it will not be there, and you can start using things inside of it again. The last tool in our disposal is the copy tool, and this will allow us to copy different parts of our terrain. Let's say, for example, I really like this area and I want to copy that. I can go ahead and drag this down here, and naturally it is going to be really thin, so you just want to go ahead and hit R on your keyboard, and then you just want to go ahead and resize this. And then whenever you want to go ahead and move it, just hit W again. And I want to copy this area. And then you would go ahead and hit copy data to gizmo. And boom, we have our area. But we're not done yet. Let's go ahead and now we want to go ahead and move our terrain to the area that we want to copy it to. Let's say I want to copy it like somewhere up here. Then we would go ahead and hit Control V. And boom, we have our area copied. So that's all of our sculpting tools. But we still have paint. Paint will allow us to paint. So let's just say that, for example, this area, we want this to be more of a sandy area. We just go ahead and select our paint here. Make sure that you have your landscape selected, otherwise it will not paint. Keep in mind you are able to have multiple landscapes. And another thing to mention as well is that when you have multiple landscapes, if you have the one landscape selected, it will not touch the other. I will go into more detail on that later. But you would want to go ahead and select your paint, and boom, you can start painting. Let's even just to show example again, I want to go ahead and make this area, well, I'm not sure, let's say dirt. Let's just go like a dirt, like just a dirt area. We want to go ahead and select our paint here on the side, and then make sure we have our landscape selected, and then just paint. Now, of course, there are more advanced tools with the paint, such as subtractive blend, but as of right now, I would not bother with that, and I would just leave it the way it is, at least when you're starting off. It can sometimes get confusing if you don't know what you're doing, and it can possibly lead to bad situations. Do not worry about the smooth, flatten, and noise tool within the paint. These are more advanced tools, and I will get to them later in the video. So that is a basic overview over the tools that we have to use for our terrain. I am going to go ahead and start explaining to you some things that over my years could definitely help you out, and is somewhat simple for a beginner and pro alike. The first tip that I would like to share is how to make realistic looking hills. So you can just go ahead and make your hill just like that. We're going to go ahead and use the smooth tool on it. And some of you might think that this looks good enough, and I can't really argue with it. It does look pretty nice by itself, but let's just say we kind of want to have like a kind of have it more like right here we can have like a more outward realistic looking hill. We want to go ahead and select our ramp. We're going to select our ramp here, and we're going to want it to go here. Pretty much all you're going to go ahead and do is that you're going to go ahead and make a bunch of ramps, just like so, and try to add variation to it as well. It definitely helps with making the hills look more realistic. But as soon as we have our hills, we want to go ahead and just smooth those hills. And just like that, we have a realistic hill. Another tip that I would like to share on top of the copy tip that I just told you is that you can use the selection tool with your copy tool. So you can select the area, go to copy, and we can go ahead and move our copy over there to where we want it. We're going to want to go ahead and make that higher just in case. And now we can go ahead and copy the data. Okay, well, and we can paste it, and as you can see, it only copied the area that I selected. This next tip is actually for the painting tool, and that is the smooth, flatten, and noise. So the smooth just allows you to take a very rough paint, let's say like this, and we can just mix the two together, just like so, and boom, it is completely seamless. Flatten tool will allow you to have the selected type of paint, and pretty much just overwrite it. So let's, for example, as you can see, I have this paint here, and it will replace everything with that. But if I have this one selected, it will replace it with that. And then we have our noise. And what that does is, just like the noise on the terrain, it randomly generates your paint. This can be helpful sometimes for if you want to make like small grass patches or small fall patches or whatever. Our next tip is actually under manage. If you have let's say you did not have enough land, well, that's no problem. You can easily just add terrain here, although I am at the max size, so I cannot really demonstrate. But there is also a delete, so let's say I want to delete these. I also mentioned before that you can have multiple landscapes, and I'm going to go more detail about that. So to make a new landscape, you can just go to manage and new. I'm going to go ahead and select the 15 by 15 for this one. And I'm going to go ahead and raise it up, let's just say up here. And create. And just like that, we have a new landscape. And we can go ahead and manage that landscape, but it won't touch the other landscapes. So when I was talking earlier about making sure you have your landscape selected, that is because if I have this landscape selected, I cannot sculpt this one. But if I have landscape 2, the new one I just made, selected, I cannot touch the previous one. So that pretty much wraps up the end to this quick tutorial video / overview over the landscape mode / terrain mode. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I might be able to answer it in another video. And if this is something you guys want to see more in the future over several different tutorials, whether it be Fortnite Unreal Engine or just regular Unreal Engine, I'd be willing to make a video on it. Just let me know and down in the comments, and I'll more than likely see it. So once again, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to like the video if you found this informative and helpful. If you want to go ahead and subscribe, that would help me out very much. But again, you don't have to. You can go ahead and turn on notifications for if I post new videos, which is very rare. So hopefully this tutorial has helped you out, understand the basics, and let you grow from there. Thank you again for watching the video, and have a great day.